Welcome into another episode of The Sit Down with Shane. This is episode 2 of the formerly named Collective Knowledge, now The Sit Down with Shane. And joining me tonight is featured Dynasty writer for Fantasy Pros, so he knows his stuff, and editor for IDP Guys, so he's smart enough to make us all sound smarter. And it is the one and only, and I'm going to try not to butcher his last name, Gary Zamarripa.
Oh my God, you got it right, Shane. First time.
Let's go.
Love that. Let's do it, man.
Let's go. Okay.
That's why my Twitter handle's Gary Zam, because people can't handle the Aripa.
Yep. So I have to ask, Italian?
Spanish.
Okay.
Basque.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So Gary, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, Shane. Thanks for having me here. This is good fun. I love watching the show. Love getting to know all the other analysts in the fantasy football community. So it's kind of cool. This is the perfect opportunity to do something like that. So yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gary, I had to have you on. You've been one of my biggest supporters on Twitter for the Nightcap, the collective knowledge, now the Sit Down with Shane. Like, you've been one of my biggest supporters, and I greatly appreciate that. So I figured one way to return the favor was let people get to know about you. So here we are.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, I saw your stuff. I liked it. And if I, once I get to like somebody, you can't stop me from trying to help you out.
Awesome. I appreciate that. All right. So you know how the show goes. We got to pay the bills first. So we're going to throw up a quick code, use promo code FFShaneB, and our ad read is for Thrive Fantasy. So come prop up on Thrive Fantasy next football season because, football's over. I know, tear, we're all sad. But the cool thing about Thrive is they have basketball, they've got baseball, they've got golf, they've got esports. And basically what you do on Thrive, it's a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. You choose 10 out of the 20 available props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value based on the over or the under and the likelihood they're going to hit. You hit the most props, rack up the most points, and win a share of the prize pool. And it's pretty easy to win part of the prize pool because even I can do it. So use promo code FFShaneB when signing up on the Thrive Fantasy app on the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today, and if you use that code, you'll get a 100% deposit match up to, I think, $100. So, that is Thrive, and I'll see you next football season. All right.
And you can't beat that. The prop bets are fun. I can't believe that's legal now. This is great.
Yeah, they're so much fun. Originally from Birmingham, Alabama, live in Greenville, South Carolina. They're in Greenville, or in South Carolina, but they're not in Alabama. So, like in football season, there were a couple times we went back to Alabama, and I'd go to fill in my props on Thrive, and I was like, why can't I submit it? So, because I love it so much, I would try to make sure that on the weeks that I knew I was going back to Alabama, I would go ahead and submit my props a little early.
Yeah, it's better than driving to another state to make them and then drive home.
Yeah, I think my wife might kill me for that one.
Yeah,
so
she wouldn't be happy with it for sure. So.
No, definitely not. All right, Gary, you ready to jump into the questions?
Love to. Let's do it.
Cool. All right, so first question, I always start with this one. When was your first fantasy football league?
I started in the year 2000. I just moved to Kansas City, and I was with some work friends, and they were trying to fill a league, and they're like, "Hey, do you play fantasy football?" And I was like, "Well, no. Would you like to?" I'm like, "Why not?" It was like a camaraderie kind of thing, to kind of get to know the coworkers, kind of bond a little bit better. So yeah, we did that, and then we did that for redraft, probably basically the same group of guys for about 5 years, and then we turned that into a dynasty league, and then we stopped doing the redrafts. So that dynasty league has pretty much been the same guys since then, since 2000. I think 2005, 2006 was our first rookie draft. Adrian Peterson, rookie year. I mean, think about how long he's been in the league.
Oh my goodness!
we got to draft him as a rookie. So yeah, and it's all the same guys. It's kind of fun to look back, just to know, kind of where guys went and different things in that. And so the first rookie draft, I had won the first year. So the second year I had to draft because we only had 10. So I got, spot number 10 and 11. I took Jeremy Irons. I don't know if you even remember his name. He was a running back, I think, from Iowa. I don't remember, but
No,
he
I don't
washed
remember
out pretty
that one.
quick. And oh, I can't remember the receiver, but it was another guy. He was a highly thought of wide receiver. So both of my first two picks in dynasty leagues were washouts. So there was only way to go up from there, really.
Ah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that league is still going?
Yeah. So we the next year, everyone's like, yeah, we want to do this. Let's do, we want more. So this basically the same guys. It's kind of weird. So the same guys, we have like 10 leagues now, and there's most like 60% are all like the core guys that were from the first one. And so yeah, it was before like you just reach out on Twitter or you go to somewhere else. Cause on a dynasty league early, you don't want to find flaky people. I knew I could count on those people and they knew they could count on me. So we always, so it's kind of weird that we have the same guys like in the same leagues, but it's kind of cool in a way too, because we can show up to our rookie draft and, everybody knows each other for, like forever and ever. So yeah. Good time. So we're still playing year 16 now.
Awesome. Gary says Gary and Shane. Hey, Craig. Or Craig says
Craig.
Gary and Shane. Craig. I love Craig. Very, very good dude. Was 3 or 4 guests ago on this show. So,
dude's sharp as a razor.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So, okay, Gary, for that league, what are your league settings?
So they were pretty much standard. It was, dynasty, all standard. And then when PPR kind of became a thing, we kind of incorporated that into the league. So it's been around so long that when we did it, it was like dynasty was kind of a new-ish thing. They were like, hey, do you want to try this new league? It's a new dynasty format, blah, blah. I explained it. So yeah, it's been pretty much PPR standard. We have a kicker, we have a defense, taxi squad. I know. I bring it up all the time. I'm like, hey, why don't we delete the kicker and the defense and add 2 more flexes? No. But I mean, we've done it for, you can't, just because you've done it for so long doesn't mean that the changes can't be made. But I bring it up every year when they ask for suggestions, and then I'm voted down every year when they ask for suggestions. So what are you going to
do? To me, and I don't know if you agree with this, there is some like benefit or just nice to have like an old classic 1 QB PPR standard league with kickers and defense. Like every now and again, that's just nice to have.
It makes it easy because, you kind of know what's going on. You don't got to think a whole, you got to think, but you don't have to think as much as you do with some of these other leagues come in. If you have some, I'm in a couple IDP leagues now, and there's a whole different layer there. The super flex leagues, that's another thing that changes your whole draft. Like our leagues kind of went to Superflex now, the newest ones in that kind of dynasty family. It's the Kansas City Dynasty Leagues, what we'll call it. And we have, 10 of them. But yeah, the last ones we've done have been Superflex. And then so our first rookie draft came around, and I had like pick 3, and I took Justin Fields like over a lot of good rookies, like, Pitts and Javonte Williams and but I'm like, well, since I kind of didn't know for sure, I was like, you just got to draft top. Someone took not Trevor Lawrence. Somebody took, I don't know. It was like my early pick on a quarterback. And I was like, I felt so wrong. But I was like, I don't know. What if there's nobody that will, I don't know. I'm still learning as it comes when it goes to Superflex and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I don't know how many leagues you're in, but I always pose this question this way. Let's say you're capped out on leagues. You can only join one league, though, because someone comes to you and it's your favorite settings. What are those settings?
So if I could only do one league, I have 100% know what I would do. It would be Superflex, PPR, IDP. Because if you only have to concentrate on one league, then you can spend a lot more time worrying about the defense, and there's more nuance to the format in that case, and that's absolutely what I would do. When you're juggling like 10 leagues, it's like, well, that makes it a little harder. You're just trying to set your lineups and get your waiver wire picks in and all that stuff.
Craig says that you've got a sweet setup behind you. I agree. Maybe one time we'll get a tour.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I tried turning the neon on, but it just blurred out. So I was like, well, we don't get the bright lights behind me. It just has to be off.
Darn. Do you have any quick tips for people that are just getting into IDP?
So, I'm kind of just getting into IDP as well, but from what I'm looking at is like, linebackers, maybe edge rushers are kind of the most valuable. I don't know. I'm looking for guys that are, like, cause I think sacks are probably worth the most points in that kind of a format. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm still really getting used to the whole format myself. So
Yeah.
that's that's one of the reasons I took the job over at IDP Guys, because I thought, if I'm editing all of these
You'll learn
articles
something.
that are gonna, I was like, I can't help it. It's like, even if I don't
Yeah.
want to read it, like, I don't, it's not like I wouldn't want to read it, but sometimes you just miss stuff that comes through on Twitter. It's like, I
Yeah.
won't miss this because I'm assigned to it, so I need to read it
Yeah,
and figure out
absolutely.
what's going on. And then I have all those guys on, chats and stuff to pick their brain when it comes to, hey, if I'm doing a startup, where does the first IDP player go? Like, what do you
Yeah.
think? So I have a lot of expert knowledge there that I can bounce off of all those guys. So yeah, I'm happy to be there
Awesome.
for that growth.
Awesome. Well, and that's a great segue too into our next question. When did you start making content for fantasy football?
Started probably like maybe 50% of whoever you've had on the show is kind of when the pandemic kind of started.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, you couldn't do anything else. So it's like I had followed I had a lot of just regular, like, celebrity stuff on Twitter, and just saw a lot of stuff was just kind of getting just run down, so I was sort of following some fantasy football people, and I'm looking, it's like, wow, all of these people think just like I do. We have everything in common. We're all talking about the same stuff. We all like the same thing. So the more people I started, the further I got into following more people and getting into it more and discussing more with people. So I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I have something to offer. I mean, I've played a long time. Just because I haven't written anything up until now doesn't mean I don't
Yeah.
know. And so Elvin Ryan, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember him, but he's a stud. And he was Fantasy Pros, and he had his own, he launched his own website called the pregamehq.com. And he reached out. I said, hey, I need some writers. Anyone interested? So I was like, hey, I don't have any experience. But I love your site and I would like to do that. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I was writing some stuff for him. And I branched out with Jeff at Going for Two.
Yeah.
I wrote for him for a bit. And at the same time, I jumped over to In Between Media. So IBT Media was writing some stuff like that. And so it's just like, next thing then just ended up at Fantasy Pros, which has been, just another great opportunity. So yeah, it's been since that long. It's been almost a couple seasons now.
Cool. Other than these questions usually run together. Other than the pandemic and your vast knowledge and just experience from playing, what pushed you? What was the final straw that said, all right, I'm going to make the jump and start making content?
So, it's one of those where you want to get out of your comfort zone. And even like replying to Elvin, it was like, man, are you sure you want to do this? This might, like, it was scary.
Yeah.
And then, but you always hear that. It's like, hey, if it's something that you're afraid of, then it's something you should probably do.
Yeah.
You can learn it, you can go with it. So I replied. I wasn't for sure if I even thought it was a good idea. I just was like, I knew I wanted to do it, like, deep down, but I was like, I was afraid.
Yeah.
Totally. And so I started doing it, and I was like, hey, I'll see what I can do. I don't know. And I kind of surprised myself. I had some stuff that came out and things that I wrote that I was like, wow, how did you do that? I didn't know you had that in you. So so awesome. I'm proud of some of that stuff, but yeah, I was just getting out of my comfort zone.
Cool. That's awesome. Do you remember what your first piece of content was?
I do. I was thinking about this today. It was a what to do with James Robinson. Do you remember he had he came out of nowhere? So I'm not proclaiming that I saw him coming out of nowhere. So he had that one big game on the first Sunday. And then I think the Jaguars played on Thursday night the next week, and he had another big game. And so I'm like, okay, everybody watch this. Like, so this is like, everyone knows that this, is he going to no? And everyone's wondering, is he going to be good? Is he not going to be good? What's happened? So I just wrote a thing, like, what would you do if you had James Robinson? Would you keep him? Would you try to just sell high? He just had 2 giant games. He came out of nowhere. this might be the time to, strike when the iron's hot. And I kind of laid out all the reasons why you would either sell him, keep him, or sell or keep, or hold. Yeah, hold.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of the things I just said is if you can get a guy off the waiver wire that's going to do RB1 numbers like that, RB2 even, that you're going to win your league because you've set yourself up everywhere else. You're plugging a guy in out of nowhere. It didn't cost you any draft capital for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then he ended up having the great year, but yeah, I remember that. And so some people remember that article coming out before he, some friends of mine, they were like, hey, you wrote that before he broke out, right? And I'm like, yeah.
Kind of. It was mid breakout. I mean, if I remember correctly, I think he finished RB7 that year. And like you said, him coming off the waiver wire, I don't feel like anyone could have predicted that. No. Kudos to you.
Well, I saw 2 great games. I saw him play 2 great games, and I'm like, hey, this might be something.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Last fantasy football question for now. Who knows? There may be others later. What is your favorite thing about the fantasy football community?
I think the support from everybody, it's like everyone's kind of in a way competing with each other ish. But, the first people that are going to come out are, people that'll retweet your article, retweet your podcast, do things like that. I've made like real friends, even though I've never met a lot of people in face to face. It's like, I consider them friends. And so it's kind of great. And like when I first got the Fantasy Pros thing, I put it out there and the feedback and the support I got from people was amazing. Like I couldn't believe so many people. I tweet out stuff and, I don't see anything, or it's like, like a real low, but something like that, everyone just rallied behind, and it was kind of cool. And you could tell everyone was genuine about their appreciation, about just being happy for you. So that kind of the camaraderie of it. For the most part, I haven't run into too many of the trolls that I've seen others have to get bashed for. I just I haven't put myself out there that far, and I hope that doesn't ever have to happen.
Yeah, totally. All right. Next question is, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of fantasy football. And one question in particular I have for you is, what is your day job?
I'm a telecommunications professional is what it says on my LinkedIn. I've been working in telecommunications for, the last 20 years, and I've done I'm doing some project management stuff now. I've done, I started out when Sprint PCS was a brand new, network, kind of helped build that when they were just expanding, like in 1999, 2000.
Yeah.
So stuff like that through Sprint the whole time, different jobs, different things, but telecommunications and just.
Okay. Ooh, excuse me. What about family, pets, things like that?
Oh yeah. I'm married. I have 2 kids. My son is 19. He's doing some online college right now. My daughter's 17. She's a junior at the, one of the local high school here, Olathe South. I have 2 Labradors.
Nice.
I don't know, 10 and 4, 8 and 14, 8 and 12. I don't know. One of them's getting older. I gotta look after her a little bit more. But yeah, I always forget to mention them. They don't come that whole question you just asked doesn't come up on my Twitter almost ever. So yeah, that's kind of nice that you did that, because that's a whole different part of me that I never think to put out there. But that's the support system. That's the team.
Awesome. I love it. So your daughter's 17. Is she a junior or senior?
Junior.
Okay. So still got a year before college decision. Have y'all started visits?
No, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. We should. I think that's when you're supposed to start them.
Yeah.
I figured she would go. We live in Kansas City. And so and a lot of the kids that graduate here, they go to K-State or KU. Okay. So my thought is she's going to go to KU. She's going to want to go where her friends go is my thought. I mean, she's very independent, but I think she could be she can be, you know, encouraged one way. You know, I think that could be like the deciding factor for something. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. Cool. And then what are your other hobbies outside of fantasy football?
I mean, fantasy football and just NFL in general, if you're playing dynasty, kind of takes up a ton of time, especially when you start writing. I mean,
Yeah.
you really can't take time off. But the one thing I thought about, I was like, you know, I love going to concerts. I love seeing live music.
Okay.
I love doing that kind of thing. So yeah, I could definitely, if I had an article to write and someone called and said, hey, there's a so-and-so's in town, do you want to go? Yes. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I did. A lot of that, just a lot of concerts, a lot of live music. And my daughter kind of does that now too. She's kind of like a
Cool.
chip off the block here because it's getting out of control really, but I can understand why she does it because that's what I did. So
That's awesome. Okay. Totally off the cuff question here. Top 3 best concerts you've been to.
okay,
And you can
so
go to 5 if you need to.
well, yeah, I could keep going at all. So I have 3 that I like for different reasons. One of them I went and I saw U2, the Joshua Tree, when it
Nice.
came out. So
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I'm
very
older than
cool.
you are, right? So I mean, it's like this was like 1988 or 89 when it first came out. It was like a band that I had been listening to a ton. I knew that album inside and out. And that's when, you know, these bands, they play all their new stuff and usually gets people
Mhm.
mad because people don't like the new stuff. You always want
Yeah.
perfect new stuff for me. And I knew the old
Dude,
stuff too. So I was like, this is so good.
I went to Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer, um,
Oh yeah,
this
I missed that
past
one.
summer,
I remember
uh,
that tour.
the Hella Mega Tour, and Weezer played, like, 2 new songs, and they were both great, like, they're 2 of my favorite songs right now, and my kids love them, which is funny,
That's awesome.
but Fall Out Boy and Green Day basically played, like, all old stuff, and it was just awesome, like, it was like, that's what I grew up on, like, I
Hmm.
younger, I know, than you, but, like, 90s rock, 2000s alternative rock, like, that's what I grew up on. Green Day is my favorite band, so, like, that was oh, it was perfect, and you saying that about you 2 playing the new stuff for that concert that you went to was like, one of the best concerts I did ever go to was when they played all the old stuff.
So I've seen Green Day as well, and just like probably the last 3 years, and they were great. And you're right, they played all the old stuff. I don't remember anything new. I remember just all of the hits, and
Mhm.
then and it was a great time. And then I saw a Green Day like cover band.
Yeah.
And so obviously these guys are super fans. The guy looked like, was it Billy Joe? Billy Joe,
Yeah.
is that his name? He looked
Yeah.
just like him. I mean, you know, he sounded just like him. I mean, this
Awesome.
guy's life, which is
Yeah.
cool. But this guy was like such a fan that he wanted to play all the deep cuts. And it's like, you know what? We don't
Oh,
know those songs as good as you do. I want to
yeah.
hear, you know, Good Riddance, and I
Boulevard
want to hear all that
yeah,
stuff.
Boulevard of Broken
Broken
Dreams.
Dreams. I mean, so that was just funny that, and you know, because I was even thinking, I told the guy I was with, I was like, even the real Green Day plays the hits. I mean, this guy's trying to be
Yeah,
like them, but he's not playing the hits. What the heck? But
yeah.
anyway, it was just all fun. But yeah, that was one of the reasons I like that one. Another one I went to see right before the pandemic started, and it was the Rolling Stones in Denver at
Nice.
Mile High Stadium. And it was with 2 of my really good friends from college, and they invited me, and it was expensive. It was like $400, and we sat close, but
Whoa.
and that's face value. I mean, that's just what the Rolling Stones throw out there, and people pay it.
Yeah.
But I went to that, and that was fun because it was the Rolling Stones, which is pretty cool, and I'd never seen them, but it was because I was with like my super good friends from
Yeah.
college, and it was like, you know, I live in Kansas City, they live in Denver, so we don't see each other that often. So that was what made that one special. And then my last one is the exact opposite of that. I went to see AWOL Nation at a small
Nice.
little place in
Yeah.
Kansas City downtown by myself. It was the first concert I ever
Oh.
went to by myself. I got to do whatever I wanted. I got to show up what time I wanted. I didn't have to ask, hey, do we want to go see the opening band? Where do you want to go to eat? It's like, you know, I did whatever I wanted. I saw that
Yeah.
show and it was great. So those are my
Cool.
top 3.
Awesome. That's really cool. And you're in Kansas City still, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, Gary, that wraps up the first part of the interview. Are you ready? for rapid fire?
I don't know if I'm ready, but I guess we'll just see what happens. You throw it out there and we'll see if I can handle it.
Well, I also like to put in quotation marks. It's rapid fire. So if I see fit to ask a follow up, I will.
I already have things that I already want to tell. I want to already explain. So yeah, I was hoping that could be a thing.
Perfect. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's get it. Favorite NFL team?
I can never do this. Denver Broncos.
There you go. I can't either, man. Like, I'll go to point at people's handle and I'm like pointing over here and it's like right here. And I'm like, okay, great.
I should have just tried both. I don't know.
Yeah. Favorite college team?
It's always the CU Buffs
Okay.
as far as like football. I mean, I'm kind of like I'm a KU fan now, but it's more from the basketball standpoint than it is from football. And since we're talking football, it has to go KU or C.
They're in the Final Four, correct?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. I have bad news for you, Gary. I am cheering against them, but that is simply so I have a small chance at winning my family bracket and not letting my 2-year-old daughter beat me.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that. I don't bleed KU for sure. It's like I bought a sweatshirt, when I first moved out here, and it was just the Jayhawk on it, and people were like, "Oh, what'd you think about the game?" And I was like, "What game?" Oh, the one I didn't watch today. Yeah. I'm sure they did great, but so yeah, no, I'm like, I want to see them do good, but it's like, if they lose, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Let's, what's for dinner?
Totally. All right. Favorite sport that's not football?
I was thinking about that. It's either between hockey and basketball, but I thought if you can break basketball out from NBA to what we just got done talking about as the NCAA March Madness, it's like, that's the tiebreaker for me. I mean, I don't watch college basketball a whole ton until the tournament comes on, and then I didn't this year, but usually fill out a bracket, so that makes me way, just like you said, it's like I don't care if KU whatever, I want to beat my daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
or win money or whatever it is. It doesn't even you don't even have to win money. It's like, hey, I want to just do good. I want to win the bracket or whatever. So and it's hard enough to do as it is. So so that's why I would kind of lean basketball if I had to pick one.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But totally. NFL by like a giant margin after that.
A good old country mile.
Country mile.
All right. Favorite food. And I do think I'm going to need some elaboration on this one.
All right. Well, I mean, I like to eat. So there's like, this was a tough one for me. And I thought, well, what could generally, like, what is it always that makes me happy? And I was like, something from the smoker, brisket, any kind of barbecue. You could do wings on the smoke. I mean, on a smoker. I mean, it's like pork chops. I mean, pretty much whatever you can think, you can do that. I've heard people do pizzas on there and stuff, but I was thinking more of the meats when I wrote this down.
Okay, so first follow-up question is: do you smoke any of your own meat?
Yes, nice. I have a Traeger, so it's kind of cheating. It's not like like the way you have to make sure you keep the temp the same hot and add fuel to it and all that. I can set it to 450 and forget it.
Yeah.
And but still pretty much a novice. So like when I make it, it's like it's like I never know if it's going to be good. I would never want to have people over and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to smoke a brisket. Come over and come hungry." Because I mean, like, what happens if? I mean, but for the most part, I mean, it does. It kind of cooks itself. I mean, you have to talk about a Traeger. So yeah.
Cool. I just had it. Oh, so I can't remember of the name of it. And there may be one in Kansas City, but I don't know. There's a place in St. Louis that has the best ribs I have ever had. And I wish I could remember the name of it. And I'll have to text my friend who's from St. Louis or the St. Louis area and ask him what the name of it is. We're going to skip this because I can't remember what it's called. Favorite sports movie?
Okay, so this is where I thought I would have to expand on what my answer was, because my first thought would be Remember the Titans. Of course, everyone loves it.
Great answer. Yeah,
people come from they come together and they from different races and they get along, and then they come in. It's a true story and all that stuff. So, but the one I wanted to say for my favorite after I started thinking about it was McFarlane USA.
Yeah.
Now it's a have you seen it or heard of it?
I haven't, but my dad absolutely loves that movie.
So I ran cross country in college and in high school. So it's kind of
Cool.
like, so I have that, but that was kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. Kevin Costner is like a guy from suburban kind of, when he goes down to, where these guys are picking fruit and all that stuff down kind
Mm-hmm.
of by the border of Mexico and Arizona, maybe. I can't remember where they're from. But anyway, so they just come all this great way, and then they become whatever they became from running, and just all of the heart that they had and what they had to overcome. I don't know, just maybe because of my cross country background, that's kind of what kind of tipped the scales for me. I mean, they're all good like that, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
probably, I could have said like 12 things and they would have all been a good answer, but it's just like, personally for me, that's what skews it to McFarlane.
No, and that makes a ton of sense, and that helps us get to know you more. You
There
ran
we
cross
go.
country. I wouldn't have known that before now.
Not by looking at me, no.
Whatever. You're in better shape than I am, probably.
Yeah, well, I got the camera low.
Favorite non-sports movie?
This is obviously an impossible question as well, but it's Pulp Fiction. Like every time, no matter what happens, I'm bringing up something. Like a day could go by and it's like something from Pulp Fiction will come up, and I always tell like my daughter, I was like, oh yeah, well, that every day something from Pulp Fiction will come into your life, and she's like, she's never even seen it. I'm like, but whatever it is, I'm like, yeah, right. Bend the spoon. There is no spoon. Yeah. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? That's pretty, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's the one that, and The Matrix. The Matrix is another one. I was like,
Yeah.
there's just something about that.
I'm so
Those two
glad you
movies,
said
but
that, because I actually just recently, over probably like a 6-day period, not consecutive, rewatched the Matrix series, because I was like, I have not watched those in forever. And I was so happy that I did.
the first one I love, and the other ones I don't know. I haven't seen them in so long. I need to do what you did and just sit down and just watch them in a row and see, is this worth it or is this not? Because there's a new one coming out. So
It's already out, I
oh,
think.
is
And
it
that's what
already?
I'm so confused. Well, so I was confused on it too, and I think my dad is too. Like, we've got a group chat with him, me, and two of my cousins, and like they were talking about it a few months ago, and then I saw it in Target, and I was like, "What in the world?" Like, I didn't think this had come out yet. So I
Now
think
that
it's already
you,
out, but I don't know.
yeah, now that you mention it, I think it was advertised a long time ago. So
Yeah,
I haven't been to the movie for a bit now. I mean, with post pandemic, I've been twice, but like it's not like it used to be where we're like, hey, we want to go once a week or all that. What's new? It's like now it's
yeah.
easier. There's so much to stream online that it's like,
Mhm.
why would I could just stream whatever.
Yeah, and excuse me, we actually went to our first movie post-pandemic, probably a month or so ago, and took our daughters, to their first movie, and it was a ton of
Oh,
fun.
really?
We went and saw Sing 2, and it was really good.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I love Sing 1, so yeah, I can't
Yeah.
wait. My kids are older now. I don't get to see that stuff. When they were young, I was like you. We saw every single Pixar, we saw every single Disney, we saw
Uh-huh.
anything that had any kind of color in it. We were watching it because it was like, yep, the kids love this stuff. And not so secretly, I loved it too. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I was all about that.
Cool. All right, this one I love the answer. So, favorite band?
Another impossible question, but if you have
I
to
thought it
narrow
might
it
be.
down, AC/DC.
Nice.
They've just been around for so long. I saw them. I saw their last concert. I think they're touring again now, starting. But I saw one of their last shows. They came to Kansas City, and it was just so good. I'd never seen them live before. It was one of those that kind of escaped me. Like a lot of the music I listened to was like Motley Crue and Whitesnake, and
Yeah.
kind of all that stuff from the 80s and 90s that kind of went out of style. That's way out of style now, but. Yeah, but AC/DC was kind of one of those that was kind of just still kind of cool. Like some of them got
Yeah.
to be lame, like it's like you look back and you're like, oh my God, I really like that music. But then, AC/DC is always like, it kind of sounds the same, a lot of the same guitar riffs, but I don't care.
Yeah, no, I don't either. So, quick fun story. Obviously, I've got a pretty vast music range too. Especially, I've got a 2 and 3-year-old daughter, so we listen to Disney. We don't talk about Bruno, etc. But then I've got my dad's influence and just music from friends that I like. So like I've got a vast music taste. I love AC/DC, and one of my favorite songs by them is TNT. So
Mhm.
I've listened to it in the car a couple of times, and now my girls will ask, and again, they're 2 years old and 3 years old, almost 4. Um, they will ask to listen to Hike,
Oh,
and
yes, yes, yes.
it took us forever to figure out what they were talking about,
I wouldn't
but
have
it's in
known
the
either right away. Yeah, I wouldn't have
but
known.
it's in the beginning when they're going, "Oi, oi, oi," and that's what they think they're saying, and so now whenever they say
Oh,
they wanna
man.
listen to Hike, Hike, that's what we listen to.
It's like, with pleasure. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I go on a
So
ride with my daughter now, who's 17, she's grabbing the Bluetooth, they used to call the aux cord, and she's like signing into my Bluetooth so she could play Harry Styles and Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo. So yeah. But
we've
the
got
good
some
thing
of that
is I've
too.
learned a lot about like young people and the music they like because of her. So
Yeah,
it's like, someone will mention something about Olivia Rodrigo, like, oh yeah, she's touring, she's supposed to come around, she should be playing bigger venues, but she's not, whatever. It's like I'm kind of plugged into the youth. She's
nice.
keeping me young-ish.
Cool. Cool. All right, favorite adult beverage?
Cold beer. Doesn't
Nice. Do
really
you have a
matter if it's like
doesn't matter
light
kind?
beer or we have a nice it's a regional brewery, so you don't get to see this too many other places, but it's called Boulevard, and they
Okay.
make like just lagers and IPAs, and they make a lot of that stuff. So I'm into that, but I'm also good for a Miller Lite or a Coors Light or Bud Light or something like that too, kind of. Oh, Heineken, yeah, absolutely love Heineken. So what I mean.
Yep.
If as long as it's cold, I figure I'm not really a beer snob, but I'll drink the snobby beers if someone has them.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. All right, favorite TV show?
So this is another one that's not impossible, but it's like, whatever you've just seen is probably going to be one of your favorites. Like, I didn't know
Yeah.
how far back do I go? Like, I used to like CSI back in the day, but like nobody, so my favorite right now, if I had to like pick one show to watch, I would be Yellowstone.
Okay.
We kind of are just watching it in the so it's just, I don't know. Like Kevin Costner, he was in my McFarland USA, and he's been in a ton of stuff now. Bull Durham, all that stuff. So yeah,
Okay.
if I had to pick, I'd pick that.
Okay, I gotta ask you because I feel like it gets made fun of a lot, especially in fantasy football Twitter. But am I the only one that actually likes Draft Day?
Oh, I love that movie.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me. I
Oh,
feel
I
like it
hadn't
gets.
seen it for a long time. Yeah,
I
I mean,
watched it the other day. I rented it on Amazon and watched it.
I didn't even know it existed until like 6-8 months ago, and then I was like, "What is this?" It's like this
Yeah,
is like like an actor I like, the thing I like doing. It's like, and I mean, it was a little whatever, however it ended, but it made me happy at the end of it. So
yeah.
yeah, I would watch that all the time. In fact, I might
Okay.
change my favorite sports movie to that.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I'm not the only one that actually
No,
likes it. Like, I
absolutely
really
not.
enjoy watching it.
If that was on TV after this is over, I would sit down and watch it.
Yeah,
100.
cool. All right, favorite actor. And I'm shocked at your answer just because based off of our conversations, but I love
Yeah,
this answer.
I just keep thinking about that too. It's like, wow, I'm really propping up Kevin Costner here, but here I go with my favorite is Harrison Ford. And so he's been in everything, but the
Mhm.
reason I think that, because if I had, favorite, that's a hard one as well. But I thought if you can be Han Solo and Indiana Jones plus everybody else, whatever, if
Blade
you're the
Runner, right?
the guy from, like I was going to write down which some of the movies
He's
I
in The
like.
Fugitive.
Fugitive, that's the one. That's another one I just saw recently. It was on TV, and I'm like, this movie's great. I haven't seen this since it came out.
And the sequel to The Fugitive is U.S. Marshals, right?
Yes.
Okay, so another funny story. U.S. Marshals was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid.
Really?
Yeah,
I
my
haven't seen it
dad.
forever either. I know that Tommy
I
Lee Jones is in it, right? So that's
yeah,
the kind of the
yeah,
tie. Yeah.
yeah. My dad just put it on for me one day, and I was like, "This is a really cool movie," and love it. So,
And so
but
my
yeah,
other one wasn't going to be like one of my favorites, but Sylvester Stallone was actually Rambo and Rocky.
mhm.
I mean, those are two pretty iconic kind of guys,
Yeah.
but he's not, maybe wouldn't be considered like a great actor, but he had two great characters. But so that's why Harrison Ford gets the hat tip to me, because I mean, iconic kind of guys, characters, plus, all this other stuff he's been in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great choice. All right. These last two questions I need right now and I need all time. So I think on the offensive one, you gave me
Gotcha.
both, but on defensive, you did not. So first one is favorite defensive player right now and all time.
So I did give it to you.
Oh, it's Von Miller for both.
Yeah, Von Miller for both. I mean, I
Nice.
like I was kind of thinking back to the old Randy Gradishar kind of Orange Crush Bronco defense stuff, and Tom Jackson, and I mean, there's a lot of good Bronco defensive guys. Or you could even branch out and Brian Urlacher, and what's the guy from Justin Seau.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the guy from New York? I can't believe it just stopped popping off of my tongue right now.
Strahan?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Antonio
Strahan, and then the other one that was in Waterboy that was on that he was basically like he's a linebacker, basically one of the greatest ever. He was on
Lawrence
Waterboy,
Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor. Like all those guys could be. Yeah, not thinking of that as a major miss by me, but we're rolling with this. But just because like Von Miller he helped the Broncos win Super Bowl 50 almost on by himself.
Yes.
And then going forward.
I know you don't typically venture into that joke, but at the time, the Broncos were one of my favorite teams because Peyton Manning's one of my favorite players ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, yeah, he brought a lot of people on the wagon for a bit. They've all since left, but what are you going to do? I don't blame him. I might have done it too, but I have too much invested. So yeah, I would say Von Miller, and even now it's like I don't know, who do I like. I still like Von Miller. I mean, even though he's going to play for the Bills, it's like it doesn't matter. He went last year, played for the Rams, got another ring. He very well could get the next one in Buffalo this next year, and I'm all for it.
Awesome.
Love him once, love him still.
Yep. All right, last question. Favorite offensive player, again, all time and right now.
So yeah, easy choice for me for all time would be Terrell Davis. He brought, the Broncos were struggling. It was tough. They would get to this, John Elway took them to a lot of Super Bowls and they would just lose it. And they didn't just lose, like they got creamed. They needed a run game and they never really had it. And then, you get Terrell Davis that comes in kind of out of the blue. I had season tickets for the Broncos at the time, watching him when he was just played special teams and stuff. And he was so exciting and he was so fired up all the time. And he made the team, which was great. And then he turned out to be what he was. So it's like, you can't help but root for a guy that is just humble and excited and great. I mean, it breaks my heart that he got hurt. I still blame Brian Griese. I say that with everything. If something happens, like I blame Brian Griese because he threw the interception on a preseason play where Terrell, when he tried to tackle the guy who intercepted the balls, when he hurt himself, and he never really came back. So yeah, I blame Brian Griese still. But if I had to pick a new guy, Javonte Williams, and it's just I've just watched him play a lot now that I've been watching a lot of fantasy stuff and watching a lot of video and all that, and the guy just doesn't quit. He's mowing people down. He can block. I love that he can block. I'm more pumped about that than some of his runs sometimes. Like I watch the stuff where this is like a safety coming in there and he stands right in the box and puts him right on his butt and like that kind of stuff. It's just like, wow, you don't see that too much. You see guys trying to chip him and kind of get him, so the quarterback can make a move, but he just planted the dude. So ever since I saw that and watching a lot of his, tackle breaking stuff, he's my guy.
Do I have a player for you in this rookie class?
Okay. I want to hear.
Go watch Kyren Williams.
Okay.
Specifically the game in 2020 against Clemson. If he's not there, Ian Book's grave is in the middle of that field.
All right, I'm in.
I'm
gonna go check him out. I haven't really checked out too much yet. I mean, I have a little bit like high level, but I haven't really dug down into the weeds yet.
His pass that's why I'm high on him from a rookie standpoint, is because I think his pass blocking is going to get him on the field.
that's the way to do it. You don't get on the field unless you can block. And that's why I thought when Javonte, I took him like everywhere last year in all the
Yeah.
leagues. I drafted him early. People probably were snickering when I drafted him, but like this year I have him on my practice squad in a lot of leagues. So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
it's going to be nice when it comes around. Now, who knows? Whatever. I've been high on other people before and they look good and then they don't pan out, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna hitch my wagon to him and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, totally. All right, Gary, that wraps up this episode of the Sit Down with Shane. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the conversation and getting to know
Absolutely.
you. Before we go, everyone make sure you follow Gary on Twitter at GaryZamFF. And before we go, where else can where else can people find you, and anything that you want to plug? Now is your time.
No, I mean, just pretty much Twitter. I mean, I Fantasy Pros, all my stuff's on there. I have at the end of my articles, I have like a link to my archive and everything I've written kind of can
Cool.
all be in one spot. One of these days I'll get a link tree like you. I saw you had one of those. It's very
Yeah.
impressive. You
Thank
do
you.
a lot of work, with the nightcap and all that and the fantasy collective. So yeah, that's me just on Twitter. And then, I have some other socials, but that's not, pretty much football stuff. So
Yeah. Cool. Well,
Gary
thanks
Zam
again for
FF, Twitter.
Yes, sir. Thanks again for coming on. If you guys liked the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. I'm so close to getting to 100 followers, and then I can change the URL.
Oh, cool.
So like and subscribe, and then follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB. This will come out as an audio only podcast on the Fantasy Nightcap at Fantasy Nightcap on Twitter. And this is the Sit Down with Shane. Cheers.
Thanks, Shane.